Hey, it's Don, the Auction Professor here. Today we're going to talk about time versus money. That's something that's been brought up a lot lately on some of the videos that I've had up. Why I do something this way, why I do it that way, why don't I buy this, why don't I buy that? For me, I've tried to figure out the cheapest way, and I figure time into all the things that I do. So time is definitely a factor for me because time is money for me. I have employees, so I have a different grasp on what time means to me. But I have employees that can ship things or cut up boxes or do this or do that for me that you couldn't afford to do. So you may buy, like, for example, LP mailers. I don't buy mailers. I ship them the way I showed in the video, which I have a link to it right up here. With the mailers, I can cut the cost down of buying mailers by 75%. I'm paying 25 cents for every dollar you spend on mailers. So for me, I can spend the extra difference to have an employee cut up boxes or whatever the case may be, and then just slam them together at the last minute when we have to ship something off. It does save time. I still have to wrap them either way, whether I have a mailer or not. I'm just cutting the costs down. There are some things that I won't skimp on. I don't buy junk cardboard. I don't get free cardboard either, but I don't pay for shipping. I charge for shipping. So for those of you who are including free shipping, I fully understand getting free boxes because you're trying to keep your costs down. For what I sell, most items you just charge shipping. That's the way it is across the board. I do not include shipping with anything anymore these days. Again, most of the items you see are vintage and collectibles, at least on this store. So take that into consideration when you're doing things. Charge for shipping on collectibles. You can't charge for shipping on clothing. The market's too saturated, too flooded to do that. You have to stand out by including free shipping with your listing. That just seems to be the case from my personal opinion. For some people, it's not worth saving 75% off shipping supplies because their time is worth more than that. You have to just do a cost-benefit analysis of this. Is it cheaper for you to actually do what I'm doing, which is doing the breakdowns and cardboard breakdowns from boxes to use to mail for LPs and 45s? Or should you buy the mailers? For me, I'm not going to buy the mailers because for 10 bucks an hour, I can have an employee do it, and it's far cheaper to ship a whole bunch of records this way, having an employee pack it up or whatever the case may be, than it would be for me to actually just buy the mailers and save that time. I've weighed my time into all of this. I have taken that into consideration. I am cheap, so I have weighed any option. You know, I've got OCD on many issues here and things I just can't let go sometimes until I figure out which is the best way to do it. So for me, I've really dug into doing stuff like that and saving money. You're going into summer right now, as I've talked about. Now, I don't want to keep drilling this in. This is probably the last video talking about this, but things are going to drastically change for many of those who are new to eBay and just doing clothing, books, and stuff like that, especially if you're not having any summer items in your store. Collectibles and vintage do sell fairly well throughout the year, all year round, though. So that's another good plus, I guess I could say, for what we sell. For those of you who are new, you know you have to keep the money turning. Keep your cost as low as you can. Even things like clothing. This is all a business expense. I write off my clothing. I wear out boots. I rip socks. I rip shirts, pants, the whole works from carrying and do this. It's a business expense. I report every business expense that I'm legally allowed to. It saves me money. For some folks, they need to save the time. So again, do a cost-benefit analysis. You could save thousands of dollars at the end of the year by lowering your shipping costs on just a couple of items if you sell enough of them. You can reduce your expenses for buying clothing by $500 if you buy a ton of clothing to wear and go through a lot of pants or overalls or whatever the case may be. Your gas or your mileage could be a deductible. If you're running out of your house, you can deduct a certain percentage of your house based on square footage that you are using, as long as that area is designated only for eBay or your business in general. So there are so many ways to save money. That's what you need to do when you're new to this, especially going into summer. You don't want to be buying stuff that you don't really need to have in summertime and shelling out money that you don't need. Even if it's only $100 a week or $50 a week, you've got a small budget if you're just starting out. So $200 extra at the end of the month, if you're saving $50 a week, is a big enough change to really flip something. You could invest that $200 into something that you could flip for $1,000. So get your money back right away. Don't be buying long tail items for everything that you get when you're first starting out either. You've got to flip the stuff. Try to keep 90-95% of the items that you get and are purchasing quick ship, quick flip items. You can buy some long tail items if you think they've got a real high potential and they're dirt cheap, but don't spend too much money on anything that you're not sure on. Research everything too. That is going to save you a ton of money, knowing the categories and knowing your niches. Start off small and center in on a couple niches that you can learn over a certain length of time, a month or two, where you can at least get a good grasp on it. Another aspect too is staying away from risky items and high dollar items that could sink you. I know there's a lot of money in phones and electronics. That's why they're risky. A lot of people have gotten bricks back instead of electronic items, and eBay has sided with the actual buyer in many cases. So whether you have a video or not, it doesn't mean they're going to side with you. I know some people video record them opening boxes. They could say you resealed it or anything. I've heard all the stories from people. I stay away from those items. I also stay away from clothing because of issues like that. Pick areas that aren't flooded and saturated as well, too. Clothing's flooded and saturated right now, so just keep that in mind. I'm not saying you can't make a living and that clothing isn't a viable market, but for me, I just can't get it anymore. There's no savers, and most of the other stores are, upping you in prices and such forth. Salvation Army and Goodwill actually do auctions and the whole work. Another aspect on saving money is actually keeping logs, and I've talked about logs left and right, and most people don't do it. Log where you're getting good stuff at. Log locations that you find good stuff at. If it's an estate sale or companies that are great, make sure you know which ones are the good ones to go to. Keep track of that stuff. That's going to save you time and money because you're not going to ones that were bad last year. And most people, again, do not do this. For me, I think in advance. I've already done this coming up Christmas is last fourth quarter. I think a year plus in advance, sometimes 2 years in advance. I want to know where I am going with my business at any time. So that's just part of the way you got to do this. Another aspect to do is keep track of your sales. Do some projections on where you want to be. If you're going down, do some marketing or some promotions or something like that when things are going down in your sales. Do whatever it takes. Look at your competitors. Whatever you can do to increase your sales. If you're only on eBay, branch out to other sites. It's going to increase your profits, I promise you. You can sell that same item. You can get a bigger exposure. And as I've said many times, this is hard work, so you're going to have to buckle down and find ways to save money. Find ways to save time if that's what you need to do. So again, there's a difference between saving time and saving money. I know time is money, but there's a big difference. I can afford to spend $10 an hour on an employee to save me money. You may not be able to do that. You may need the time or you may not need the time. Again, know where your business stands. This is your business. Keep that in mind. Every dime you save is a dime more you are putting into your own pocket. No one else's. It is your money that you're blowing by buying things you don't need to get, like price guides and things like that. Some price guides I do have. Some price guides are worth getting. Get them from the library. Research material, get it from the library if you can. Things like that will save you some money. I don't buy CDs. I don't buy DVDs. I use YouTube for my music these days. Or I'll get them from the library again. So if you need motivational music in the background, it's there for free as well too. There's so many issues you can do things like that for. Just like opening a second Anchor store saved us thousands of dollars. Hundreds of dollars I save in clothing or shoes, my mileage, my house, my electricity can be deducted a certain percentage of your phone line, a separate phone line. There's just so many things you need to do to get this going. Whether it's a risk or not. One last example is labor as well, too. For me, I took accounting classes. I used to work and I handled payroll for companies as well as a general manager and as a regional, but I still pay somebody. It's not worth my headache and my time to do my own accounting for payroll. I also don't do my end-of-year taxes anymore. I don't care if it costs me an extra $1,000 or $1,500 to have my taxes done. It still saves me the time, the aggravation. I don't have to show up anywhere. It's a long, drawn-out process when you get to have a larger amount of money coming in. You've got many different aspects of business. So these are just things to take into consideration when you're doing this. For me, my bottom line is the biggest issue because I don't worry about time. I have employees that can do almost anything for me. So figure out what you need. Figure out where you need to save money or time. Go after it and cut that cost down or cut the time down all you can. Hopefully that gave you some ideas and some thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.